that the cost of a down payment is rising, keeping home ownership rates in Los Angeles low. While the home ownership rate nationally is 65%, it is only 56% in Torrance, only 49.9% in Redondo Beach, and only 27% in Hawthorne, and only 37% in Inglewood. In short, certainly affordable housing opportunities are nowhere to be found for millions of households in this country, including far too many households right here in Torrance and surrounding cities. Moreover, as our population ages, the housing security of our elderly population is of growing importance, and our housing stock is unprepared to meet the needs of a growing senior population. According to a study from Harvard's Joint Center for Housing Studies, the nationwide population of 65 to 74-year-olds is projected to climb from 21.7 million in 2010 to 32.8 million in 2020, and then to 38.6 million in 2030. The study also points out that much of the nation's existing housing inventory lacks basic accessibility features, preventing older adults with disabilities from living safely and comfortably in their homes. Despite these challenges, we have reason to be optimistic. Cities like Torrance have recognized the importance of these housing issues and have made important progress, particularly when it comes to senior housing. Torrance has prioritized the building of more senior housing after determining that the demand for assisted living centers was starting to outpace the existing supply. Here in Torrance, Torrance has made it a priority to address veteran homelessness. In fact, in the area, in this entire region, we have all of our cities and localities working to do what they can about homeless veterans. In fact, I was very pleased to attend the grand opening of Vermont Villas about a year ago, a 79-unit development in Harbor Gateway that provides housing for formerly homeless veterans as well as formerly homeless seniors. This development was financed with a combination of low-income housing tax credits and private investment, and involved effective partnerships between government, private, and nonprofit organizations. This kind of progress is so important because it honors the contributions of those who have fought bravely for our country, and it caters to the housing needs of our most vulnerable residents. And so, these are the kinds of efforts that have helped the South Bay Harbor area communities reduce veteran homelessness. And I must do a shout out because the organization here, the South Bay Coalition to End Homelessness, is on it. They've paid attention, they've worked on homelessness, and they've done a great job here. And I'm going to show you what has happened. Here in the South Bay Harbor area, these communities have reduced veteran homelessness by a dramatic 35% between 2015 and 2016. In fact, this decrease has brought the South Bay Harbor area communities much closer to functionally ending veteran homelessness, with an estimated 37 homeless veterans still in the area, down from 575 in 2015. Give them a big round of applause. That's something to be very proud of. But there's more work to be done, as the overall rate of homelessness in the South Bay Harbor area increased by 22% between 2015 and 2016. And as I have said time and time again, even if it's only one of our veterans living on the streets, that's one too many, and that's unacceptable. Thank you. We need to harness the success of these positive stories to continue to push local, state, and federal lawmakers to prioritize investment into affordable housing. But it will not be easy. Not only is the scope of the challenge tremendous for all of the reasons I've discussed. But we have major political battles to fight in Congress to continue to make efforts to cut critical housing programs and undermine the mission of the Department of Housing and Urban Development is something that we're very aware of. Ladies and gentlemen, I pay a lot of attention to this area because I'm the ranking member of the House Financial Services Committee, and I will continue to present solutions and fight for the funding and reforms that we need to meet these challenges head on. So, with that, I'm just going to mention to you that because of what happened in 2008 with the subprime meltdown and the recession, almost depression that we had, we came up with some reforms that are known as the DoddFrank reforms. And so I have the responsibility to try and help implement these reforms. Now, these reforms are not appreciated or not liked by many in our society. When you hear a lot of talk about Wall Street, you have to understand that what we're doing in these reforms will literally take money out of their pockets, and they're not happy about that. And so I'm constantly challenging some of the biggest financial institutions in this country about their practices. We learned a lot as we fought through that crisis about how many folks get tricked into signing on the dotted line for mortgages they can't afford. We had mortgages that were not absolutely vetted, where people said, you know, they didn't need to know that much about your income. We had a lot of fraud that went on, where people helped folks to make up income so that they could give them those mortgages. They came up with all of these exotic products, no down payment, interest only, and on and on and on. And it put a lot of homeowners in terrible shape. Thousands lost their homes in many areas of this country. And DoddFrank is designed to not allow that ever to happen again, along with some other portions of DoddFrank, like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is central to the reforms that we're doing. Because what happened during this crisis is all of our oversight agencies that were supposed to be not only looking out for the safety in our systems, they were supposed to be looking out for consumers, but nobody was taking care of consumers. And now we have this Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that's returned millions of dollars, billions now, I think it's $11 billion, back to consumers that were victims of fraud, being cheated in so many ways, whether it's automobile dealers, payday loans, you name it. And so his name is Mr. Cordray. You'll hear a lot about him because they're after him. They're going to get him. They want him out. They say he has too much power, and he does. He's the single director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and it was organized in that fashion so that he wouldn't have to go before the Appropriations Committee and they would tie him up and not give the appropriations that's needed for him to do his job. Or they didn't want a single director. They want a commission that could tie his hands. And so when we did the DoddFrank legislation, we made sure that he was protected, and that has not set well with Wall Street and a lot of other very special interests. And so you're going to hear a lot about DoddFrank. You're going to hear a lot about Cordray and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And I want you to listen very carefully, because some of these issues are not paid attention to. And a lot of people don't know where their harm and their hurt is coming from. And so I want you to pay attention so that you will be able to join in whatever struggles there are to ensure that the citizens of this country are treated fairly, and that they're not ripped off, and that we get rid of fraud, and people don't have to suffer because nobody's looking out for them. A little bit about transportation. It's a little bit better story. I'm proud to report that about 1 year ago, Congress passed a bipartisan, multi-year transportation bill to bring our nation's transportation system into the 21st century. The bill was called Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act, or the FAST Act for short, H.R. 22. in the 114th Congress. The final conference report passed the House in December of 2015 by an overwhelming bipartisan vote of 359 to 65, and then it was signed into law by President Obama. See, for those who say there's no partisan work every now and then, it is. The FAST Act provides funding for investments in roads, bridges, and mass transit systems and creates good-paying jobs which cannot be outsourced. The final conference report for the bill provides $281 billion in guaranteed funding for highway, bridge, public transit, and transportation safety over 5 years. Although this conference report was not perfect, and I did not agree with every provision, I voted in favor of it because I believe it is important that we move forward with a multi-year transportation program that will repair our dilapidated infrastructure and invest in safe, reliable roads, bridges, and transit systems. Among other provisions, the FAST Act provides almost $1.5 billion for the Successful Transportation Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act program, which helps transit agencies like Metro arrange financing for new investments in transportation infrastructure. Metro used this loan to accelerate the construction of the Crenshaw LAX corridor, one of them, a light rail project that will improve transit access for several communities in my district, including the city of Inglewood. Furthermore, the FAST Act also provides $3.7 billion over 5 years, specifically for bus and bus facilities programs. This is a 75% increase over the previous funding level. The increase is especially beneficial for local transit agencies that serve the South Bay, including Metro, Torrance Transit in the city of Torrance, and the G-Trans in the city of Gardena. Last October, Metro received $10.5 million federal bus grant, which was specifically designated for use in the South Bay region. Metro will use this grant to replace approximately 30 aging diesel buses with new low-emission compressed natural gas buses. Last year, I wrote to the Department of Transportation, to Secretary Anthony Fox, to express my strong support for this grant. I'm proud to have helped Metro obtain federal funding for this noteworthy project. And I'm especially proud that these new clean fuel buses will be used here in the South Bay. Moreover, I'm working closely with Torrance Transit and Gardena G-Trans to ensure that they too receive their fair share of federal transportation funding. Congress also renewed funding for the Tiger Transportation Grant Program in fiscal year 2016 in response to a letter I wrote the previous year to congressional leaders that was signed by 145 of my colleagues. In March of last year, I wrote another letter to congressional leaders supporting President Obama's request for $1.25 billion for Tiger in funding year 2017, and 137 of my colleagues signed that letter. Almost a year has passed, unfortunately, and there's some in Congress who have still not completed work on the federal funding for government programs in fiscal year 2017. However, when they do, I, along with Ted Lieu and others, will continue to advance full funding for transportation programs that benefit our districts. Finally, I'm going to touch on something that's going to make a few people in here a little bit upset. But I want you to know I'm monitoring Metro's work in the South Bay. As I'm sure you know, Measure M was passed by the voters in Los Angeles County in the 2016 elections. Measure M was Metro's proposal to levy a sales tax to fund new transportation projects throughout the county. Measure M includes a variety of projects that will eventually benefit the South Bay cities. These projects are as follows. $619 million toward the Green Line extension to the Crenshaw Boulevard in Torrance, $250 million toward the I-405/110 high occupancy vehicle connect ramps and interchange improvements, $51.5 million toward the I-110 Express Lanes extension south to the I-405 I-110 interchange, $150 million towards the I-405 South Bay curb improvements, $175 million toward the I-105